We're talking a lot of DOGE today because that's what's in the headlines. We're going to the dogs because it's really affecting everything these days. Of course, the Department of Government Efficiency, but it's not going to be like a boring take angle on cutting all this waste. Personally, I don't think cutting waste is boring myself, but there's something else to this. Although this may be the one. This may be the one where you push back a little bit. I think DOGE is just a very public and a very loud example of cutting waste and how you can apply that to your personal life. It's a great lesson for all of us. And you're probably thinking, okay, all right, that's it. Usually I'm with you, Bill. And I get it. Most of the time I'm with you, and you take these national, whatever's going on in current events in the headlines, and, what's the self-empowering message you can take out of that, or what's the lesson you can learn. But this one, yeah, you're pushing it a little too far. But hold on. Hear me out. This will all make sense, and it's actually kind of an awesome thing. Because what you learn is you can apply all this stuff to anything going on in your personal life. And more importantly, you look out for who's protesting, you auditing what's not working right. Because those are the people you have to get rid of. It'll all make sense. Trust me on this one. So we'll talk about that. Those protests as well. And some not so surprising numbers about the Super Bowl just came in. Usually takes a day and a half for that stuff to come out. But the media outlets cannot stop pushing one certain aspect. They can't get over it. And it's certainly time they do, at least before the next Super Bowl, for sure. But before we get to that, the business, the nuts and bolts. Thanks for finding Wicked Radio. As always, this is always a replay on X and on Facebook and at YouTube on there. But the audio podcast is wherever you search for Wicked Radio with Bill Adams. You'll find it, whatever is your chosen platform. So thanks for being here. All right, let's get to it. Yesterday was a big day, the loudest of the protests. And I will say the most desperate of the protests against cutting waste. It sounds weird even to say that. Think of it. The protests against cutting waste and corruption. Because that's exactly what it is. Because this should tell you everything you need to know. This is why they're getting so desperate. Because people who have a vested interest in keeping auditing, keeping this DOGE department, keeping Elon and everybody else out of their personal lives, out of their elected business, they're the most corrupt. And they're all coming out of the woodwork because they kind of have to. And you may be asking yourself, why are they protesting? Because they're like sitting targets. They're making it easy to find who the most corrupt DC politicians are. Well, the first reason is because they have to try the best they can to control the narrative. I don't think it's going to work, but they have to get out there and they have to try to control the narrative and get out there and try to rally their troops, people that are out there that want to support the corruption, whatever, I don't know. But it's getting more desperate all the time, which is making this job, our job as American taxpayers, really easy. The louder they get, the easier it is for us to fire them. We just do it through DOGE because that's what, most of us did vote for. Here's the loudest one. This is the one that got the most attention yesterday. Kwasi Mfume. Might be familiar with that name, the elected congressional representative from the Baltimore district. Here's what he said.
This will be a congressional fight, a constitutional fight, a legal fight, and on days like this, a street fight. Yes, we will stand.
Street fight? Boy, they love to fight, don't they? I love it, too. It'll be a legal fight, but it's going to be a street fight. Well, you can't have both. First of all, let's start there. But they love to fight. It's going to be a fight, And then, like Maxine Waters said a couple of years ago, we're going to get in their faces. And they did. Well, that's not going to go well either, and you hope it doesn't come to that. But they love to fight. Again, why are they there? Why are those elected representatives behind him there? Because they want to hold on to their corruption. That's not even speculation anymore. It's not even, it's fact. I mean, you're not even going to find really all that many Democrat voters or just independents who are going to, argue with that. If you're fighting against even looking into your department, looking into where this American taxpayer money, your money, is going, if you're fighting against looking into that, you are corrupt as the day is long, like him. It is what it is. But it's getting louder. Now, speaking of loud, let's go to another speaker from yesterday's protest, and there were a lot of them. Jasmine Crockett. Oh, she's my new favorite. Congressional representative. She's amazingly on the Oversight Committee, this will directly affect her because, they're supposed to watch the government spending. Elected representative from Texas. Nice job, Texas, because you brought this to us.
We are going to be in your face. We are going to be on your asses. And we tell you something, Mr. Trump. You gonna learn a few lessons from us. and I'm gonna be the first one. You and your little friend off of Twitter.
My God, I think I lost some brain cells just listening to that. Thanks, Texas. Thanks for that one. Appreciate it. Yeah, well, democracy isn't any legit democracy fully welcomes an audit. And that's true, right? And this is what I'm getting at, too. If you have somebody, if you are on the up and up, you fully welcome an audit because it actually gives you an opportunity to explain what you do. And it makes your case to explain how important you are and how valued you are. If you fight an audit, except the IRS, that's a different thing. If you fight looking into your own business, you're hiding something. And she's hiding something. Except the difference between Kwasi Mfume, the first speaker there, and her, I think she actually truly doesn't understand exactly what she's hiding. There's corrupt by design, and then there's her, who's just like a fool who's corrupt because they're using her. I think. I don't know, but she's not too bright. And she's, again, I'm going to be on your ass. Okay. All right. Again, the louder it gets, the more desperate it gets. And how about these protests? Do we even call them protests? Is that the right word to use? I caught this clip from Joe Rogan yesterday, and he made a lot of sense on how non-organic these protests are. This isn't from the street. This isn't the traditional, the whole concept of protesting and make your voice heard in a true democracy. It's really important. You have to do it. It's what we do. What we do in a constitutional republic. It's really important. What we're seeing there all over the news and what we just heard right there, that's not any way, shape, or form an organic protest. And he did a great job describing that. This was Joe Rogan I think it was just yesterday.
But that's not what this is. What this is organized, funded protests where someone is spending a lot of money and they're mobilizing other NGOs. They're using their access to these mailing lists and all these different things. They're putting these things together.
Well, why? Again, the big question is why. And the great thing is more and more people realize it. The louder and the more desperate these protests get, more people realize, oh, yeah, this is not, even if you haven't paid attention to this stuff, you look at it and you're like, oh, yeah, something funky is going on here. Like they're actually, again, it sounds weird to say because it's so bizarre. DC politicians protesting cutting government waste. It's just insane. And if the argument is still out there, well, that's not wasteful. These are very important programs. Well, here's the smartest thing DOGE has done in this process. They've made it very public. There's not a lot of people they want to move the argument. There's not a lot of people arguing that this isn't government waste because it's very public of where this stuff has gone. It's all been publicized. I mean, wasteful at the best, flat out dangerous and criminal at worst, what they've dug up. And they've publicized exactly what they've found. So the louder this gets, the more corrupt they look. So they're exposing themselves, but they kind of have to. But it's a great thing. Now here's what I'm getting at. This is why I wanted to bring this up in the first place. Again, and this is going to be the one. This is the one where you go, oh, okay, well that's a little bit. I'm with you usually, Bill, and you kind of make the connection. What's going on in the headlines and the news, and what you can learn from it. What's the self-empowering message there that we can all apply? And this is the one where you're going to say, yeah, that's a little much. What I'm saying is this DOGE thing, just auditing and cutting and getting rid of waste and corruption in a very public way is all it is. It's just the most public possible example of cutting out corruption. Can't you do that? Can't we all do that in our personal business? Of course you can. Hear me out. Because if you get that sense, and we all have it, which we're all adults, anything going on in your personal life or business that's just not working, it's just not there. You're a manager of a big department and the numbers aren't there. You're like, what is going on behind the scenes? Or you're an owner of a small business and numbers aren't there. You're like, something's not working. I don't know what's happening. Or you're losing a bunch of employees and something's happening. Apply it even to your personal life, right? Why do I keep losing friends? Why does this all keep happening? Every once in a while, you got to stop and audit what the hell's going on. Just stop. Otherwise, things spin out of control. Again, the big public example, government waste. It's happened for 60, 70 years. That's why we're so in debt. How about your personal life? Are you paying attention to your business? Your classroom? Your your dating, your social situation, anything. This is what we can all do, is to look at that, look at the nuts and bolts. This actually happened a couple of years ago, and we weren't even aware of it. Remember in COVID? I know, I hate to even bring it up. I get PTSD as well. Remember during the whole COVID thing when they shut kids out of classrooms? So they forced parents to teach kids at home, which was a nightmare as you're trying to work too. A lot of parents, we looked at the curriculum they gave us to teach kids, and we were like, all right, well, we got these classes, Huh? What? They're teaching our kids what? And this led to a massive movement of more homeschooling, more people showing up at school boards, more people demanding change. That was an audit. That's all that was. Now we're seeing just a giant example of that with this whole DOGE thing. That's all it is. You can absolutely do this in your personal life too. But here's the beautiful, amazing thing that happens. If you've ever done it, just take the time to look at what's going on in your personal business. An amazing thing happens, and it's great. It makes it easy for you. Most people who are useless, that you don't need, they fire themselves. Or at worst, if they're doing damage or stealing or running the good people off, eventually they fire themselves. Another good example that we can grab from what's going on nationally here. And I'll go right to Congressman Mike Collins' post. I think this is from a couple of days ago, where he said, another glorious morning in America. At least 20,000 federal workers have signed up to exit government service in exchange for paychecks offered through September. This is that deal that Trump offered. They just fired themselves. You know why? Because they know that what they're involved with your taxpayer money, is going to waste, fraud, and corruption, and sometimes criminal activity. So why not get a payout, leave, find some other line of work where you're not going to be looked at before it's too late. This will happen in your own personal business too, no matter what you run, no matter what it is. You start looking into this stuff and you start asking questions and demanding a change, kind of like we all did. The bad people fire themselves. Usually that happens. And it's awesome. It's the best possible thing that can happen. And it happens all the time. Because the louder they get, like those protests, the easier it is for you to get rid of them. In any case. All right, so that's my magical bridge I built. You hear what I'm saying now? With DOGE just being a giant public example of you can apply that to, we can all apply that to your personal business. Thank you. Thanks for coming to my TED Talk. Right. All right, some not so surprising numbers from Super Bowl. What was that the other day? 59. You remember when this happened?
For the second time, the Vince Lombardi Trophy is headed to Philadelphia. Eagles.
It was, if you watched it, you were part of the biggest Super Bowl audience of all time. Now, this isn't really that surprising because it happens all the time. It's kind of a shocking thing when the Super Bowl numbers don't go up. But as it turns out, and this is according to, it usually takes like a day and a half for them to compile all the numbers because it's so complicated now. It's not just when it was on one network. It's on streaming services, and it's on overseas networks, and it's, people watching on YouTube and all that other stuff. But it turns out Super Bowl 59 delivered an average viewership of 126 million people, according to Fox's projections. And it went up over last year's. It broke the record that was set last year. This happens again and again and again over the previous record, which is not that surprising and pretty good. It is the great American spectacle. It's a thing, like we said the other day, even if you're not into football. But I wonder if they keep pushing this, if they're ever going to lose some audience numbers. Because this was just so ridiculous, and the heartwarming thing was they're getting called out for it. Let's go to ESPN. This is a big post, and they did stories on it. Of course they did on their morning shows. It's going on right now. The post is Jalen Hurts. Big picture of him because he's the MVP. And it says, fourth black quarterback to win the Super Bowl. Headline, Jalen Hurts joins Patrick Mahomes, Russell Wilson, and Doug Williams as the only black quarterbacks to win a Super Bowl. Why? Why are we still counting this? Why? The whole goal, what I was taught, was to be colorblind. What I also learned throughout my life, why I love sports so much, is it's a unifier. You're not thinking about race, or you shouldn't anyway. You're just thinking about the only color you're rooting for is the uniform color you happen to prefer. That's all. But let's not just pick on ESPN, because Fox itself did it too. Same, almost exact story. Black quarterbacks to win a Super Bowl. Russell Wilson, Jalen Hurts, Patrick Mahomes, Doug Williams. Doug Williams back in the day. He was the guy at Media Day when he won with the Redskins, formerly known as the Redskins. They said, how long you been a black quarterback? He says, all my life. Why? Why keep pushing this? This is the kind of stuff that turns people away from sports. Stop counting. We're supposed to be colorblind. Let's stop thinking about those things. But whatever. Super Bowl 60 next year. They announced, did you see the logo for Super Bowl 60, which I think is in San Francisco? That looks pretty rough. I don't know how married they are to that, but they're going to have to change that thing, because that is, oof. Remember they used to have the old Super Bowl logos where it was like a cool patch? Let's go back to that. All right. The takeaway is absolutely the truth. What's going on with DOGE is just a giant public example of what you and I and everybody else can do in your personal business. Ask questions if it's not working. Audit it. And watch out for those who protest having to face the questions. Those are the ones you have to get rid of. But they may fire themselves, which is great. Second takeaway, don't ever take any crap from anybody, as always. And as always, you can find the audio podcast wherever you get those, whatever platform you like. It's Wicked Radio with Bill Adams. Replay right here on X. It's on YouTube, too. The Facebook thing is Wicked Wisdom with Bill Adams. You know why. Wouldn't let me say radio. But other than that, already motoring through the week. Have a wicked awesome Tuesday, and we'll talk to you tomorrow.